Hello my friends and welcome. Let's go straight to the Pokrovsk-Myrnograd direction because we have some of the updates that are happening almost every day. There are some of the minor changes, but sometimes they could be significant, as it happened the last night. So we have the confirmation that Ukraine finally started the withdrawal of the forces in the southern part of the pocket from all of those villages which were previously in a gray zone, and some of them are still in the gray. So Novopavlivka, Chunishina, Novoukrayinka, and also from Suhy Yar, it seems like, from this village as well, Ukrainian forces are retreating to the southern area of Myrnograd. And also they try to bypass the main road because it's been controlled by Russians, it's been mainly cut. They want to go to Myrnograd to get there somehow, and also somehow to leave this bottleneck. But still there is not yet the command for Ukrainian armed forces to leave Myrnograd completely. Well, I personally consider this one as the late decision by Ukrainian military command. It's not just my rhetorics. Ukrainian officers are saying about it. They are even screaming, accusing Ukrainian command as well. I'm going to quote what our guys are saying, writing, typing. Because they're in desperate, they spread the messages also openly in internet. The messages are being taken by our volunteers and even by the Russian propaganda, showing that definitely the situation is not good for Ukraine. But the start of this movement from the south, it's more or less positive step for Ukraine. Still, Ukraine will not be able to withdraw their forces completely without losses. At this stage, it's already not possible because, again, Russia established the control over the key supply logistics areas, roads, and connections. So it's going to be very difficult. And I hope that the weather will deteriorate even more. There will be fog, there will be rain for our guests to retreat more or less safely, as safe as possible. So the main problem now for the southern group is this Russians' advancement. We have the confirmation filmed by Ukrainian drones. They show the presence of the Russian armed forces there. Ukraine now tries to use drones to somehow slow down the Russian army advancement, but still sabotage groups are out there. They already crossed the road. Our drone operators are working 24/7 to eliminate the threat, but still Russia basically has more army men, and they use those army men in those straightforward attacks. They don't care about the losses. So against this kind of the enemy that goes and goes, it's very hard. Plus, as you saw in multiple of the videos, Russia also uses the bad weather, then drones are unable to fly for advancements, attacks, and so on. Yes, for now, this drone operation of Ukraine was successful, but Russia is using aviation gliding bomb strikes. By the way, we have not so good news about the Russian aviation gliding bombs. It seems like Russia boosted the production of this very devastating weaponry. I'm gonna tell about it a little later in this video. And Russians already put their flag in this industrial part and advancing from it. It means that they pretty much created the bridgehead in this southern area, and soon they're gonna advance with the main forces from Promen. Myrnograd is still mostly under Ukrainian control, but it's gonna be changed very soon, and the most threat is now coming in this bottleneck for the southern Ukrainian army group. Again, there are not thousands of Ukrainian soldiers, as Russian propaganda says, but still the life of every Ukrainian soldier is so important. There are hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers presented, and let's be honest, Ukrainian command is pretty much led to evacuate our guys. And there was also the Russian advancement towards Gnativka and Rih, areas of the Pokrovsk itself. Here Russians put their flags, and they were spotted already at this crossroad a few days ago. And this area on Ukrainian or pro-Ukrainian maps is still not the red one because of the presence of Ukrainian group not far away from the central government building of Pokrovsk, but they were spotted there, I guess, 2 days ago, and what is happening there right now, it's hard to say, but those flags were put not a long time ago, so potentially it could be all the red area already, but Russians still cannot advance with their main forces across the railroad. For them, this is the big bridgehead, the southern part of the city, and here they act just with the small sabotage groups. On their maps, on Russian maps, we're also gonna check out those. Russians already took control over Rivne, and definitely there are reports from Ukrainian army as well that Russians are spotted there, but occasionally, we are not speaking about the bridgehead, and those small Russian groups, they cut Ukrainian supplies in this bottleneck. Also not a good thing that Russians went to Rodinsk. Rodinsk plays a very great role. Again, we have some of the Ukrainian drone video operation on the ground, but if you kaput 1-2 Russian troops, it doesn't mean that next will not come to the specific place. If they are there, believe me, there will be many more of Russians. That's their tactics. And before, Ukraine operated in Rodinsk even with a tank because there was the fog and Russians couldn't find that tank. But now it's way more difficult. If Russians take Rodinsk, there's going to be the risk not for Myrnograd. For Myrnograd, it's already understandable, and for Pokrovsk as well, But in Rodinsk, there is the road that goes northbound, and potentially Russia may advance towards Belitske, Dorozhne, and to Dobropilya itself. Before, it was one of the main vectors for Russian attack, but luckily Ukraine deployed the first Azov Corps that cancelled this attack completely, and Ukraine almost finished the Russian group near Shahove. And that's the Russian map. I see it's kind of complicated, but here is Pokrovsk, I hope you can see it, and also Myrnograd. So there are minor differences with Micro 73, minor differences also with the deep state military map source. What Russians say that in Rivne they went with the gray zone and operate from the south of the settlement, possessing the threat for Ukraine, and they color the entire Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is over here. This area is entirely in red. Well, I would maybe even agree with that because we have the new confirmation about them putting their flags there. The presence of the Russian forces there was confirmed, and the Ukrainian infantry, I think it withdrew from the information I have from this government building 2 or maybe 3 days ago. And without the presence of Ukrainian army, definitely we may put it into the red one. Also, Russians say that they were capable to cut Myrnograd into 2 of the parts, southern and northern, but we saw the video that Ukrainian drone successfully hit Russian positions there. It doesn't mean that they will not advance there any longer, no, but for now I wouldn't say that those parts of the Myrnograd completely cut, no. Again, Ukrainian drone operators are working hard to find out all of the Russian vehicles, all of the Russian infantry in the area. Some of the pictures were shared by Sternenko, volunteer. My friends, I would say that without drones, without those volunteers, Ukraine would have lost this war long time ago. Maybe completely, maybe not. That's the Russian Baba Yaga drone, by the way. Yeah, they also have big drones, but kind of rarely compared to Ukraine. And now I'm gonna read the statement from one of our officers. Sorry, it's not pleasant, but I have to do it. 2 weeks ago, it was clear that the presence of our blocked units, small separate groups in Pokrovsk had no military sense. They could not hold back the enemy's advance and could only remain as suicide fighters if they were not withdrawn. And they were not withdrawn. No corridor was made. They continued all this time to fearlessly resist the enemy constantly infiltrating Pokrovsk. And they did not surrender. They do not surrender now either. Some of them have already died, and they will all die because nothing reaches them, and no one can help them anymore. But we know that they are right now in battle, in their last battle. They are forced to surrender, but they do not surrender. So those who allowed this to happen know that you are criminals. You have brought the situation to exactly where it is. Our best warriors should not die like this, but they have died, and the rest will die exactly like this, because of you, degenerates. Report concluded. A very pessimistic message conducted by one of our officers, spread by our volunteers. I'm not making this up, my friends. This is how they see the situation. For me, actually, I'm in lack of lots of the information because I'm I'm far, far away from Myrnograd Pokrovsk pocket. Maybe they know more. And what I read, I share with you. That's the view on the current point. Judging on the map, like let's open the map, well, still there is some sort of the way out, right? Those gray zones, even the Russians are saying that there are some of the gray zones. So maybe if definitely the weather is bad, our guys could potentially get out. But if they write like this, it's really not just concerning, it's catastrophe for Ukrainian group in Myrnograd, Pokrovsk, in this southern area. So we'll see where it leads. But of course, Syrskyi is very late with his decision, and it's already turning to the second Avdiivka, as I told in one of my recent videos, where Ukrainians actually here surrendered to Russians and Russians just unallied them. And the deep state, well, it gives us more gray zones. Let's go to the satellite image. So yeah, definitely more gray zones. In different maps, we can see all of this in red. Here, everything of that in gray. Well, I would agree that this northern area behind this railway, it is gray indeed. But here, I think it's already red one. Judging on multiple of the confirmations, videos coming from the front lines and other analytics saying that at least this part is red, I believe in that. Well, actually, Ukraine tried to cut Russian group in Krasny Liman. There was an attempt to do so from Sukhetska village like that, but this Russian group is bigger, way bigger than Ukrainian counterattack forces. That's why this vector so far it's not that successful, or not successful at all, it's better to say. And we know that Russians even went to Rodinsk now, so I would color this one into the gray area at least. So unblocking Ukrainian forces here, and they're in operative encirclement. If Russians are controlling at least this road with their drones, yes, we may speak about operative encirclement. Unblocking Ukrainian army will be very, very hard, if not impossible at this stage. So as I told you, the best case scenario right now is just to leave this area using bad weather. Yes, Ukrainian military command waited till this point. That it's very, very bad. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry for delivering you those bad news. I'm not interested actually in delivering those bad news. If I was like a standard YouTuber, I would say, hooray, we are winning. No, doesn't matter. Our guys are holding. Yay, fight, 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 or something like that. And I would have many more views, encouraging, yeah. But no, my duty here is to say the real information on the ground, judging on the videos, judging on reports coming from our guys, and the reports are not good, as you understood already, yeah, in Myrnograd. So of course it doesn't add motivation to any of us, and also including Ukrainian soldiers and Ukrainian society in general. Ukrainian society was shocked recently by huge corruption scandal. Not huge, but outstandingly great, the greatest since the start of Ukraine as the country. That's definitely the biggest one. None of that was before. And I heard some of the voices saying that in Ukraine, people may speak everything about corruption, everything about president or something. Actually, in Ukraine, it was always possible to speak like that freely under any sort of the president, including Yanukovych. People were blaming Yanukovych for everything, calling the stuff against Yanukovych, but at the same time there was huge corruption, in Ukraine. Maybe even worse than is happening right now, but not too much worse, I would say. Yeah, probably I'm gonna record one more video just for you to understand, the feeling of Ukrainian society. So not just the enemy is attacking Ukrainian army out there on the front lines, but there are also stupid actions from Ukrainian military command that waited so much for Ukrainian troops to be, I would say, encircled. And also government itself, including friends of president, they messed up completely with energy infrastructure. By the time there's no electricity and strikes all across Ukraine. So it's actually like huge demotivation factor, which is not bringing Ukraine on the path to withstand Russian attacks on the front lines. Because the main thing is actually what is happening on the ground. As for me, that's why I'm reviewing those maps, because they may influence everything. And this breakthrough of Russian army, then they bypass Ukrainian defense in Zaporizhia. And do we have the update from that point right now? Yeah, again, every day you see Russia moves, and Danilivka is confirmed to be, well, the presence of the Russian soldiers is confirmed to be spotted in Danilivka village by multiple of the sources, including a Ukrainian deep state military map source. It means that Russians here, they bypassed the main defense line already without any fight or with minor fights, which is not good. So the next big settlement after Myrnograd Pokrovsk could be even not Kupiansk, no, Hulai Pole, because Russia concentrated lots of the forces. They're already creating this pocket. And after Gulai Pole, there is the freeway basically to Zaporizhia, as I mentioned to you before. This is the key settlement. Well, there are actually two of the key settlements. One is Pokrovske and the other one is Gulai Pole. Well, if Pokrovske, Russians may leave and continue movement because this bridge is already cut. And from the logistics perspective for Ukraine, it will be very hard to send forces across this river for backup or to strike Russian forces, which could potentially advance further. So they may leave actually Pokrovske behind, but Hulai Pole, no, they must take it, and we'll see if they're gonna use the same infiltration tactics here. For Russians, in this case, it's gonna be more complicated because there is the river ongoing, so natural obstacle, just a single bridge over here. No, there is one more small bridge, but still it's gonna be complicated for them in Hulai Pole, not as in Pokrovsk, I hope. Well, at least from the geographical perspective, it's complicated. Plus, if Russians are now spotted in Danilivka, it means that they already mainly cut, yes, the supply connection from Pokrovske to Hulai Pole. Ukraine cannot send the forces through this road, only from this direction via Zaliznychne, because there is the railroad ongoing through this village. That also potentially restricts the future defense of Hulai Pole. And Russians also attacking in Kupiansk direction. For example, it was yesterday, it is today, they advanced with the main forces towards Stepovo-Novoselivka, Kupiansk direction, but for now in Kupiansk, Russians slowed down. There were no any movements for the last couple of weeks, I guess. So I didn't see those. Well, maybe we should check, like couple of weeks. Yeah, just here it was the advancement, and in Kupiansk itself there was nothing. It tells that Russians may use their forces in multiple directions, but not significant forces. Now they mainly concentrated in Pokrovsk, Myrnograd, and also in Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk directions. And we also have the fresh news from the Russian group Vostok. They show that they entered Oristopol village. It is, I guess, Dnipropetrovsk region. I'm gonna check it out on the map. Yeah, it's on the way to Pokrovsk. They were spotted, and definitely out there, not far away from Velika Mikhailivka village as well. Well, that's why we have this advancement, yeah, this gray zone. But if Russia is presented in multiple of the areas of Oristopol, it means that there is the fast advancement. I want to know if this bridge is still out there, if Russians are capable or not to cross this river here to the bigger village of Velika Mikhailivka. If they are successful with their infiltration from Oristopol, or maybe after Alexeyevka, if they go to Tikhe, and here they're gonna cross it from this shore, they may go and advance towards Pokrovske. Let me show you. So here is Pokrovske. They may go from two of the sides, potentially, from this side and also from the southern area. So maybe the idea is to create this bridgehead, and maybe after all, Russians want to occupy Pokrovske on the way to Zaporizhia. And that's how the fog is looking from the camera of the surveillance drone, somewhere on the front or close to the front lines. The weather conditions, as you can see, they may allow some movement of supplies, armies, and so on. So Ukraine should wait. Like the best case scenario, again, for our group in Myrnograd is just to wait for this kind of the weather and move out. And hopefully in the coming days there will be the period of this very bad weather, so Ukrainian military command should analyze the weather conditions, forecasts, and call our guys to evacuate at the proper time to minimize losses. Yes, there still could be losses, because Russia controls everything kind of precisely. This bottleneck the way out from Myrnograd, but it seems like our guys have no other choice. Well, now in Zaporizhia, Ukraine tries to hit some of the roads to slow down Russian attacks. The aviation gliding bomb caputed this bridge, but I think it's kind of easy to bypass it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it will hold Russians, probably, but not too much. Yeah, sorry guys for delivering not so good news. So exclusive, Russia plans to make up 120,000 glide bombs this year, Ukrainian intelligence says. Not just that, they also plan to build 30,000 Shahid drones, including jet Shahids, remotely controlled Shahids. Actually, Russia has different modifications of Shahid drones. Yeah, we call them Shahids. They're indeed now Geran, fully made in Russia. So they're not receiving any sort of the spare parts from Iran itself. But there are some of the spare parts, micro schemes, and components produced even in the Western countries, unfortunately. They also have those components in their missiles and so on. They also prepare to start the massive production of the jet engines to be installed on the gliding bombs to increase the range of the gliding bombs up to 200 kilometers. They have already used those bombs and they're satisfied with those and want to build more. Moreover, they are now testing the new prototype of the more powerful engine, which may glide this bomb. It's no longer a bomb, I guess you may call it a cruise missile, yeah? So this new type potentially may fly by 400 kilometers, and it is very bad. Because even if you compare the classical cruise missile with the gliding bomb may carry lots of the payload, like TNT, FAB 1500, 5000. Those are very devastating. So then cruise missile may, let's say, harm the building somewhere, let's say create some sort of the hole in the building. Aviation bomb will destroy the building. Depends on munition, of course. It may even destroy the block of the buildings. That's how powerful it really is. So if Ukrainian engineers are now still capable to restore, for example, some of the thermal power plants to get electricity, to get essential water supplies and heat supplies after Russian strikes, with some days they're being restored, usually after drone strikes, after cruise missiles. With aviation gliding bomb, it's going to be completely destroyed, like flatlined literally, so nothing would be left to repair. So you need to build new, and that may take years. And then you build, again, gliding bomb, and it's gone completely once again. From what we know, Ukraine is working on some of the solution to intercept those gliding bombs, but Russia may produce those massively, may launch those massively, and there is no robust variant how you may intercept those. It's more complicated than to intercept cruise missile or drone. Now to some of the political news. I was really impressed with the brave use of Slovakia. So Fico decided to visit some of the school where he was confronted by young generation who were waving Ukrainian flag later on, and they decided to leave. Well, Fico said that it's useless to support Ukraine, that Ukraine should be like abandoned or something. And those guys say that no, Ukraine should be supported, and Fico called them, his own young generation, basically kids, to go and fight if they really want it. To fight for Ukraine or what? I don't know. I didn't understand it. What he told, like, what is in his head of this Fico? Well, guys, they waved the Ukrainian flag and they left, marching out, leaving Fico alone with his thoughts. Yeah, that's Fico over there. Is he ashamed? Absolutely. He doesn't have the shame, and he also wants to block Russian confiscation of the Russian assets in the European Union. That is how he really wants to support Russia. So fuck him. Well, I understand that some of our partners, and Slovakia is not that close partner of Ukraine any longer under Fico, but some partners, they definitely start to ask questions from Ukrainian government about corruption and whether Ukraine can guarantee that those corruption schemes will not be implemented any longer. Yeah, definitely that's the challenge now for Ukrainian government as it is, because there are lots of them strange institutions. And yeah, I filmed separate video about that case. Well, luckily we have some of the good news, because this guy, Chernyshov, who was one of the top corrupt officials, he already got his suspicion officially, and NABU went to court and they asked to arrest the guy and detain him. Well, we'll see. Maybe tomorrow he will be detained. Why is it important? Because it's the close circle of the president of Ukraine, and for us, as for average Ukrainians, it doesn't matter whether it's president himself or his friends or some other officials, prime ministers. No one cares who are out there. They should be punished if they are corrupt, right? I think it's logical. And whatever name is uncovered by NABU is the independent anti-corruption institution. Thankfully, even then we have this sort of the leadership from Zelensky. He has a majority in parliament, his party. He's controlling all of the power in Ukraine. Still, we have those independent institutions as NABU and the Independent Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office, and they do their job pretty much properly. And for now, they just uncover a part of the tip of the iceberg, 1 maybe 2% of what is out there they have. So I'm sure that we're gonna be, I wouldn't say surprised, because I'm not surprised any longer, but it's going to be interesting who else is involved into not just energy schemes, but also military, because now they announced that they're going to release investigation for military sector of Ukraine. And yeah, I understand it's the huge reputational loss of Ukraine, but it should be done. Otherwise, our guys are dying for literally nothing. There is the chance now with those investigations that the truth will be uncovered, that all of those people involved will be punished. And it doesn't matter even if president is involved in that. No one freaking cares. Corruption should be eliminated forever. That's what Ukraine chose before in 2014, Maidan Revolution. Ukrainians are fighting. Our guys are fighting on the front lines, not just against Russia, but for Ukraine not to turn to the second Russia, a smaller version of the Soviet Union. Russia is the bigger version of the Soviet Union. Ukraine is now kind of similar, yeah, if we speak about those corruption and incompetence. So, of course, Ukraine should evolve, and without evolving, Ukraine will just lose. So it's important to speak about those cases. It's important to tell about what was happening. It's similar to this Epstein case, Donald Trump. Whoever is involved, whoever is in the Epstein list should be punished. I hope you all agree. It doesn't matter if there is a president, Donald Trump, his friends, doesn't matter. Law is above everyone, yeah. So the same goes for those corruption schemes in Ukraine. It's like Ukrainian Epstein files, yeah. The crimes are different, but idea is the same, that no elite should put themselves above the law and above other people. Well, guys, with that, I hope for the better news tomorrow. I hope that somehow, miraculously, our guys will go out of that Myrnograd pocket all alive, and everything will be fine. I just hope that it will be like that, and I just hope that there will be no similar mistakes done once again. And finally, Russians will be stopped with their advancement. By the way, we had some of the good news today, yeah, with some of the strikes on Russian port Novorossiysk and on some of the Russian refineries. Novorossiysk is not working, Saratov refinery is not working either. So who knows what news we're gonna encounter tomorrow. Just stand by for my updates, and I'm gonna be here all the time with you. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do here, you are very welcome to join me on Patreon. The link is in the video description just below, or you may press join button to join the membership of this channel. Thank you so much for maintaining my motivation to film content for you every day. If you are out of this option, you may just press your like to this video and also subscribe for the channel. That's how you propel this video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much for that as well. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.